Okay, so today I have a bunch of new drugstore launches to use in today's video. It's kind of that time of the year. I feel like it gets earlier and earlier every single year. It used to be like January of the new year when a lot of new brands would launch their full new drugstore collections. And now we're kind of seeing it in December and then even some new drugstore launches in November this year. So I'll be here to test everything for you. That way you can decide whether or not you want to spend your money on the products. I love drugstore makeup. I love testing out the products and just kind of seeing what the brands have in store. And I will say I have a lot of products under $10 in today's video, which weirdly enough is kind of rare these days. A lot of drugstore launches are very, very expensive, but I'm glad to see some of the more affordable brands are launching really high quality formulas. So I've tested a few of these things off camera, and then some of them are going to be complete first impressions, but I kind of thought maybe testing them ahead of time would be a little bit more helpful. That way I can share some thoughts on the products as we go through and apply everything in today's video. Let's actually start with this product. I did talk about this in a video I did a few weeks ago on like the best new drugstore launches. So if you want even more reviews, I'll link that video below. I've actually been loving this a lot. When I first tried it, I was like, that's a good primer. And then we went out of town for about 2 weeks and I brought this with me. It just kind of checked all of my boxes that I look for in a primer. This texture is really beautiful. I wouldn't call it a dupe for the new Huda Beauty Easy Blur primer, but it has a it performs in a very similar way. It almost feels similar on the skin too. It's very, very smooth. It's very lightweight. It just leaves your skin prepped and ready to go for foundation, which is the purpose of primer. But I swear my foundation actually wears so much better on top of this product compared to a lot of other smoothing primers. And that is the reason why I love the new Huda Beauty blurring one so much, because it's the same case. For foundation, I'm just going to use a tried and true staple, the Catrice True Skin Hydrating Foundation. Some of you have said this is being discontinued, and I did kind of stock up on it. I never buy backups these days, but this is like my #1 favorite foundation. So I have the shade 030 Neutral Sand. I do have a new powder I'm going to be testing out, so I definitely want to use a tried and true foundation I know works well. And then I'm actually going to be using the new Liquid Contour from e.l.f. and then a new shade of their Liquid Blush. Sometimes liquid cheek products really lift my foundation underneath, so I wanted to go in with a good, long-wearing, just higher coverage foundation I know typically does work well with liquid cheek products. That way, if the bronzer doesn't work for me, I'll know it's the bronzer and not my base products underneath. I'm honestly going to be so sad if they're discontinuing this foundation. Normally the new Catrice launches hit Europe first, and then eventually they come over to the US. So a lot of you who live in Europe said they discontinued this foundation. They came out with a new one. So I haven't seen any news about that new foundation here in the US yet. Once they launch it, I will test it out. But this has been my favorite foundation since like 2020. I do have 2 different lip balms that I want to talk about in today's video. So Essence launched a new formula. This is the Juicy Balm Glossy Butter Balm. Originally, when I saw these, I thought they might be a dupe or just a very similar product, an alternative to the Makeup by Mario plumping lip serums, or even like the Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lips. They definitely feel more like a traditional lip balm, which honestly is not bad. I feel like we're not seeing lip balms in like this style of packaging anymore. Most brands are doing like a squeeze tube lip balm, which is really nice too, but I realized that I don't have a lot of just like regular lip balms in my collection anymore. So Catrice also launched one. These are the Karen Colors lip balms. I think I actually prefer this formula a little bit more. I've been testing these off camera. I'll swatch them for you just so you can see what they look like. I would say in general, the Catrice formula, I mean, it has a little bit less pigment than Essence, but it varies depending on which shade you get. For lack of a better word, I would honestly describe these as very buttery. This one is Hot Take. So it has a little bit of a red tint. So many products these days are incredibly glossy, which is really nice. But after trying this, I was like, this just reminds me of a good old school lip balm that you can throw on throughout the day. It has a little bit of color to it. It's very smooth, but it's not overly glossy or overly thick. But it does a really great job at just moisturizing the lips, and it does come in a good amount of shades. So I'm a big fan of this formula. So I recently did a dupes video where I shared some drugstore dupes and some really good alternatives. If you want to check out that video, I'll link it below. One of the products I talked about was this Makeup Revolution eyeshadow palette, which is very obviously meant to dupe the Patrick Ta Major Dimension 2. I actually told you that I almost like this formula a little bit better than Patrick Ta's formula, and this is a significantly less expensive palette. I've tried some Makeup Revolution eyeshadows in the past, and they've been nice. They've never been like my go-to brand for eyeshadows, but this has to be a different formula because it is significantly better. This one is the Enchanted Icon palette, which I actually said in that video is pretty similar to Huda Beauty's which one is it? Oh, the Rose Quartz palette. If you don't have that palette or you just kind of like the vibe of it, this is a really, really good alternative. There are a lot of similar shades. Today, I'm going to use the Eternal Icon palette, which does remind me of Naughty Nude from Huda Beauty. I wouldn't say this one is a dupe. There's some differences between the two, but it does have that like chocolate berry tone vibe to it. This one has a couple of greens in it, which are really pretty too. And I might use this shade as liner, which is why I wanted to do my eyes before I do the rest of my face. I think I'll just mix these two shades together for a transition. This is a very powdery matte formula, but very easy to work with. I find the matte shadows blend out really nicely. And I guess I would describe it as maybe slightly more buildable than Patrick Ta's formula. I wouldn't say that the Patrick Ta matte formula is the most intense, rich matte formula I've ever tried. The deeper shades are probably slightly more intense on the eyes, whereas this formula starts off a little bit softer, but you can build it up really easily. And I haven't really had any issues with patchiness or unevenness with these shadows. So definitely like the matte formula, but I would say overall the standout formula in the palette would be the top row, which is like the metallics and the shimmers. I'm just switching out the lip balm for another color. Not that it really matters, but that was just clashing with my eye look. So this is actually my favorite. This one is Half Baked Cookies. I'm actually just going to use the same brush and take this brown and work that into the crease. I'm pretty sure I read a comment possibly on that dupes video. I'm sure it was that video because that was the only video where I talked about these palettes, saying you heard that Makeup Revolution is possibly using the BH Cosmetics eyeshadow formula. And I don't know if that's true. I kind of remember there being something about Makeup Revolution and BH Cosmetics. I don't know if they were like merging or one company was taking over another. I don't know exactly. I just remember the two companies being connected in one way or another. So I thought that was an interesting thought. I am not familiar enough with BH Cosmetics these days to say, oh yeah, like this definitely feels like a BH Cosmetics eyeshadow formula, but I did really like pretty much every single BH Cosmetics palette I ever tried. And I would say I like them better than Makeup Revolution. And this just doesn't feel the same as a lot of other Makeup Revolution palettes. So whether that's true or not, or they just kind of updated their formula, if you've tried Makeup Revolution eyeshadows in the past and they haven't been your favorite, I would definitely say these are worth trying again because this formula feels a lot different. And then I'm just going to go in with this kind of plummy brown in the outer corner, and then I'll take some of the metallic shadows all over the lid. There also is a fourth palette that I don't have just because that color story didn't really appeal to me a ton. It's a little bit of a cooler toned color story, which I do like cool tones. I'm not sure that that palette really resembles any other high-end palette that I've seen. I think it had some blues maybe. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there is a fourth one available on Ulta's website if you're interested in that one too. But like, look how easy these shadows are blending. They honestly just layer so nicely. Okay, so for the lid, I think I'm going to take this shadow right here. It's kind of like a really pretty tie-dye tone. And then I will take a little bit of this one on top. Okay, so this looks like a little bit more of a satin, or just like a softer metallic rather than some of the other shadows. Like the one that is obviously meant to do Patrick Ta's formula kind of has some really gorgeous foiled metallics in it. And this one's a little bit softer in finish. But that shadow looks pretty. Very, very smooth on the eyes. And if you're just going for like, you know, a little bit more of a kind of coppery smoky eye, I feel like that tone is perfect. I got it all over. Just disregard that. I will go in and clean it up. I just want to do the rest first. Okay, weird. The texture of this one's a lot different. The center is almost like a balm. So I feel like this is going to get, I feel like I got too much. This one almost has like a little bit of stickiness to it, which one of the reasons why I like the Huda Beauty palettes so much is because there are a lot of different formulas within them. So I feel like they were kind of probably trying to create something similar with this one, but it's not exactly what I thought it was going to be. That's obviously a lot different than the other shade, but I think I like it more. Okay, I think this look needs a little bit more sparkle, so I'm going to take one of the new e.l.f. Finest Fleck glitter eyeshadows. This one is in the shade Champagne Showers, which is most often kind of compared to Urban Decay's Moondust Shadow and Space Cowboy. Again, I talked about these in my dupes video. If you want to hear like a full comparison, I'll link it below. Or I guess I'll just tell you in this video, it's not the exact same formula as Urban Decay's Space Cowboy or the Moondust Shadows in general, but they're very, very pretty on the eyes. They kind of give just like a pop of sparkle to the eyes. You can see the difference between this side and this side. They're a lot more affordable than Urban Decay shadows. So if you're looking for a drugstore alternative, I definitely think they're nice. They feel different. They're not the exact same formulas, but I do think these are really, really gorgeous single shadows. And honestly, the more I use them, the more I like them. Urban Decay's Moondust shadows on like a bare eyelid really shine. Like you can tell, you know when someone's wearing it. These I think look best layered over other shadows because they add a little bit more of a pop to the eyes. So now I'm just going to kind of clean up under the eyes. I am going to go in with the cream formula from the palette and use that as eyeliner. So these palettes do have two creams. There's a little plastic sticky piece which separates the creams from the powders. I'll probably stick that back on there when I'm done. By the way, this is my favorite brush. I've been doing cream or even gel eyeliner a lot. It's the Sigma E.o.5 eyeliner brush. It just creates the perfect sharp wing. I've even been using it with powder shadow too. So I'm going to use that to create a wing, and then I'll probably move on, do the rest of the face, and come back and do the eyes. I know I went in a weird order today. Okay, moving on to the face. I will come back and finish the eyes in just a few minutes, but first I have a couple of new products to apply. The e.l.f. Camo Liquid Bronzer and Contour. So I did pick up two shades, one that looks more like a traditional contour, one that looks more like a bronzer. So I have one fair and then also two fair light. I think I might go in with two fair light, but let me just swatch them both for you. So the last liquid bronzer I tried was from Say, and honestly, after trying that one, I was like, I don't think I'm a big liquid bronzer fan. I have a few formulas in my collection I like. The Flower Beauty one is probably my favorite, but in general, if I had to choose, I'd probably go with a cream bronzer over a liquid bronzer like 95% of the time. Here's the shade 1, which is almost a little bit gray. I don't know that that would look great on my skin tone. I think I am going to go with the shade 2, which is obviously warmer, but it's definitely not, it doesn't look orangey on my hand. I'm just going to apply this to the back of my hand. So I also got the new e.l.f. Liquid Bronzer and Contour Duo brush. One side's a little bit thinner, one's more rounded. I'm going to use the rounded side. So I'm more so going to use this as bronzer today. Anyway, like I said, I do like the e.l.f. liquid blushes because they are very easy to apply and they stay in place well, they blend out easily, but they don't look patchy on my skin. So even though I told myself like enough with the liquid bronzers for a little while, I did want to try this formula just to see if it was the same as the liquid blushes, if I liked it better than Say. As much as I love a good cream bronzer, they're not as thin as liquids. And even though I have a fuller coverage foundation on today, if I am going lighter coverage, that's when I'll typically use maybe like a liquid bronzer or liquid contour, just because it sits so nicely on the skin and it doesn't feel like you're wearing anything. It did erase my foundation a little bit though. See, this is where I deal with some dark spots, some hyperpigmentation from previous acne scarring, and I think that's why I'm so hyper aware of the fact that a lot of liquid bronzers and liquid contours just lift my foundation right here specifically, compared to blush that can kind of do it in this area, because that's not an area where I usually like a little bit more coverage. So part of me thinks it's just like the nature of a liquid product to kind of lift or almost erase whatever's underneath. I do think maybe if I used a little bit of, I don't have it with me right now, the e.l.f. Complexion Duo brush, which is not as dense as this, that might have been better because it would just create like a little bit of, it would have a softer touch as I applied the product. Let's use this on the other side, the Sigma Large Angled Contour Brush. This does give like a very soft, light touch on the skin. So that might be a little bit more ideal for this type of formula. And I'll just go in with a light layer. Okay, that's much better. I definitely like the way that that brush applied the product a lot better than this brush. So for me, a dense brush is probably a no-go when it comes to liquid contours, liquid bronzers, but this side looks so much better. I maybe don't have as much hyperpigmentation on this side, but I do have a little bit that would typically show through, but you can see like the foundation is still in place underneath. In the end though, that's a very natural product. Like I usually do prefer a little bit more just because I go in and set everything with powder, but I'm not going to layer too much more. I might end up going in with a little bit of a powder bronzer. If you like more of a natural look, I'm actually going to apply a little bit to my nose too. If you're looking for something a little bit more natural, that could actually be a really good option just because it isn't too opaque. For concealer, I'm just using the Catrice True Skin Concealer, and I'm going to blend that out before going in with blush. I did already apply a little bit under my eyes, so I'm not going to go in with too much under here, just a little bit more to kind of brighten things up. And then right down the center of my nose, between my brows. I am actually just going to go in with a little bit more of the bronzer. I feel like it's not going to show up once I go in with powder. Now that I know this brush works better, I feel like that is perfect. So I'm just going to slightly layer it up because I am going to go over everything with a little bit of blush, powder, like I said. Okay, yeah, this brush is so much better. And honestly, like I said, I do think the Complexion Duo brush from e.l.f. would be great too. So I did order a new blush. e.l.f. released a couple of new shades as part of their Camo Liquid Blush line. I thought this color was so gorgeous. It's called Bold Faced Lilac. I actually don't have any blush in this color. I don't think I do, powder or liquid. It's like the perfect kind of pinky purple. It might be a little bit bold compared to what I typically wear, but it's really pretty. So I'm just taking that Real Techniques brush and I'm just going to apply this to the cheeks. We'll just go in with a light layer of it, but it's really pretty. This has been one of my favorite blush formulas ever since they launched them earlier this year because they're just so easy to blend out. I honestly do feel like they're basically a spot-on dupe to Rare Beauty, but maybe just slightly they're not quite as pigmented, so I feel like they're not as intimidating if you're someone who doesn't love like that super intense, rich formula Rare Beauty has. I do have a new powder from Lottie London. This is not a brand new launch. It's just new to me. It's the Ready Set Go Under Eye Setting Powder, and this is in like a light pink shade. I've told you a couple of times that I would really love to find like the perfect light pink because especially if you're wearing a pink blush like this one from e.l.f., I just think a little bit of like a brighter pink under eye kind of like blended into the blush looks so pretty, but a lot of pink toned powders are just a little bit too dark for me and I feel like they kind of clash with my skin tone. This is a gorgeous powder. I don't know if I've ever tried a powder from Lottie London before. This one looks so smooth on the skin. Okay, so it definitely looks pink on me. I don't know. I don't know if I'm like sold on the pink under eyes on me because I think it's because I deal with like a little bit of redness to my skin. It almost looks like my skin is slightly red. I'm just not sure that pink looks great on my skin tone, but the actual powder is gorgeous. Very smooth, really pretty. It is a softer pink than some of the other powders I've tried, but it's still pink. Like it still shows up as pink on my skin. I'm just going to use this ColourPop powder on the rest of my face. This one is in the shade Fair 4. I do think it is pretty though. I don't know. What do you think? I know the pink under eye trend is maybe not as trendy as it even was like earlier this year, but I do think it looks so gorgeous on so many people. Like I love when they have like a pink under eye going into pink blush. I don't know if I can pull that off. So the other lip balm that I wanted to talk about in today's video is from Essence. Like I said earlier, these are the Juicy Balm Glossy Butter Balms. They definitely are not the same as the Makeup by Mario Plumping Lip Serums. I'm actually going to use this purple one today. This one is called So Berry Cute. So I would say like 3 of them lean more sheer. There's like an actual clear, this purple one, and then the lime green one. And then the other 3 have a little bit more pigment. They all smell different based on the name. But honestly, I love the purple one. I think it looks pretty on its own just to kind of add like a little bit of a cooler touch to the lips. But it also looks so good over like a nude lipstick just to kind of cool it down a little bit. So it's an interesting formula. I mean, it's very scented, I will say. So if scented products are not your thing, you might want to skip over it. I think they smell really good. Anyway, just a really nice formula, especially if you want like a lip balm that leans slightly more in the direction of a glossy balm than the Catrice formula. To me, Catrice is more so like the perfect everyday lip balm. And this one is great if I want like a little bit more of a glossy finish, but not something quite as thick or quite as glossy as the Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lip formula. And again, these are from Essence, so they're a lot more affordable, which is obviously a big pro. And I think the quality is really great. For the brows, I just used the NYX Thick It Stick It Brow Gel to kind of fill them in, add a little bit of texture, and then the NYX Lift and Snatch Brow Tint Pen just to define them a little bit more. To finish up, I'm just going to take this brow and maybe mix it with a little bit of this on the lower lash line just to tie things together. I think I might do a little bit of brown liner on the waterline today just to kind of add to the smoky look. This is from LA Girl. It's the Shockwave Metallic Eyeliner, and I have the shade Brown Sugar. For mascara, I do have a new one. I wore it one other time. It's the Hard Candy Make It Double Volumizing Mascara, and then they also came out with a lash primer. So I will say, based on the last time I tried these out, I did like the mascara, but I didn't love the lash primer. I'm going to use it again today. I didn't really find that the lash primer did anything for my lashes ahead of time. Like if I'm using a lash primer, I want it to do one of two things. I want it to actually lock my mascara into place well. So if I'm using a mascara that tends to flake or smudge, I want the lash primer to actually like lock it into place. And this one is called the Get a Grip Lash Primer. So I assume that's kind of the purpose behind this one. But if I am actually going to take the time for a lash primer, I mainly want it to just make my lashes look thicker and longer and fuller. My favorite lash primer is the one from Essence. I think at this point they have two, but the one that comes in the white tube with the orange lid, that one actually makes such a difference. So what's nice about this mascara is it has two different sides. So one side is meant to really volumize, the other side is meant to like lift and lengthen. I, again, wore this once, but I kind of switched up the way I did it on both eyes. And I find that I like using the fluffier side first because I think it applies a good amount of mascara. So it makes your lashes look really voluminous, very, very thick. And then I like going in with the other side to really kind of separate and lengthen them. Okay, so this is what one coat looks like. I feel like it looks okay with one coat, but let me build it up and show you what it looks like with two. Okay, so this is what the mascara looks like. This is the side that has the primer on it. This is the side that doesn't. I do think it looks a little bit more dramatic on the side that has a primer, but I also feel like it looks a little bit clumpy. So I'm just going to take this lash comb and kind of pull it through the ends. The lash primer itself, as you're applying it, like there is a little bit of stickiness to it, so you would think it would lock the mascara into place better, but I don't know. At the end of the night, like my lashes looked the exact same. I think I need to actually try it with a mascara that does flake. That way I can tell if it really makes a difference, but I just don't think the lashes on this side look as good. Like they're kind of clumped together. So I like the mascara. I wouldn't say it's like my favorite mascara ever, but I don't think I like that lash primer. Okay, I am going to apply a little bit of powder bronzer. This one's from e.l.f. It's just the one that I've been using for like the last few months. The Primer Infused Bronzer in the shade Forever Sunkiss. I'm not going to apply a lot. I just feel like I need a little bit more warmth to the skin. I don't think I'm going to go in with any more blush just because the pink under eye powder and the blush I feel like do add enough color to the cheeks. For highlighter, I do have this one from the brand Pretty Smart. It's their Sparkling Aurora Pressed Highlighter in the shade Golden Bloom. I actually bought this before I did my big highlighter declutter video. If you want to check that out, I'll link it below. It's a really pretty color. I've been talking about the Pretty Smart highlighter palette a ton on my channel. It's really gorgeous. It actually comes with 3 different shades, and there's a shade in there I think they actually market as a blush, but you could use it as a highlighter depending on what you typically go for, your skin tone. But I haven't tried their single highlighters. I actually haven't tried a lot from the brand. I've tried a couple of products and I love them, and I keep meaning to go to Walmart because that's where the brand is sold and then pick up a few additional products. But I think I bought this when I was placing a Walmart order. I actually was buying products for like a very specific video. I was going to do a video on makeup under $10, and I just haven't filmed that video yet, so I figured I might as well use it in today's video. Really gorgeous as an inner corner highlight. For the lips, I do have a couple of new products from Makeup Revolution. So these are the Pout Liner Plumping Lip Liners. I only swatched these the other day. I didn't actually apply them to the lips. So I think I'm going to go in with this pink shade. This one is called Kiss Baby Pink. When I swatched them, they felt incredibly creamy, but they're also supposed to have a little bit of a plumping effect to them. I know Too Faced has a lip liner that's supposed to be plumping. I do find that it feels like a typical plumping formula on the lips, but it doesn't really make my lips look any fuller. So we'll see if it's a different case with this one. Okay, very, very creamy. I can feel it starting to burn a little bit. It's like that warm plumping feeling. So it's, I don't know, let's just wait a minute and see how it feels. It's not as strong as the Too Faced Lip Injection Lip Plumpers, but it is noticeable. It looks good on the lips. It does have a matte finish, but it's creamy. It's not like so matte that it's going to enhance every dry line on your lips. I think it looks good. This shade's maybe a little bit lighter than I was thinking. I probably should have decided on which lip gloss I was going to use because I might have switched up the lip liner color. So these are the Pout Balm Plumping Pout Balm Plumping Lip Glosses from Makeup Revolution. So I have two shades. I have Wild Mauve Pink and then Espresso Cool Nude. I wore Espresso Cool Nude the other day. It's a gorgeous color. I feel like this will actually go so perfectly with a lot of the looks that I tend to like to wear this time of the year. It's like a chocolatey brown. It's sheer, but you can also layer it up a little bit. These are really, really nice. I think this pink one might be a little bit less sheer just based on that initial swatch. So there are a couple of different shades. It might vary depending on which one you get. I'm going to go in with the nude one. Okay, definitely feel the lip liner starting to tingle. Let's see if it's transfer proof. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty transfer proof. I didn't expect it to be like that just based on swatching it the other day because it was so creamy. And then when I went to like wipe it off, it wasn't transfer proof. But you know what? I probably didn't let it dry enough. I will say, I do think the gloss is pretty plumping for a lip gloss. Let me apply this and then I'll talk. Okay, I wasn't sure if those colors were going to go together, but in the end, I feel like it worked. So I do really like this formula. It's very, very glossy, and I feel like these two products together do make my lips look pretty plump. This is not what I would describe as like a super sticky gloss, but there's like a little bit of tackiness to it. It's going to stay on the lips pretty well. It looks really, really smooth. It's interesting because the lip liner kind of has a warm tingle, whereas the gloss has a little bit of a cool tingle. So when you put the gloss on top of the lip liner, you feel like that cooler tingle coming through, maybe kind of similar to the Buxom lip glosses. If I'm using a lip product that has like that plumping tingle, I definitely prefer the cooler tingle compared to the warm tingle. So let me just kind of wrap my thoughts up and I'll be right back. So how do I want to wrap this up? Let me share my top 3 standout products from today's video, and then I'll come back and share full reviews on everything once I've tested everything out for another week or two. So I definitely loved the Milani Conceal and Perfect Blur Out Smoothing Primer. I've been using this for a few weeks, so this wasn't my first impressions on this. In fact, like I said, I've already reviewed this on my channel, but it really is such a gorgeous primer. It leaves your skin feeling refreshed and moisturized, but it also looks really smooth and makeup wears really nicely throughout the day. My complexion is not looking the greatest today, which is due to a few other products, but generally speaking, this really does create like a very smooth, great base for other makeup products. I have to go with the Eternal Icon palette. I really do love the way my look came together, and part of it is due to the fact that I used the e.l.f. shadow on top. I feel like this looks really great on top of the kind of berry tones in this palette, but everything went on beautifully. I like the eyeliner, like the cream shadow as liner. I think these metallics I used are really great. The matte shadows blended out easily. So definitely a fan of this color story, but also these palettes in general. For number 3, I'm going to have to go with the lip combo. I do like both products, but I think if I had to choose, because I really do want to keep it to 3, I'd go with the Pout Balm lip gloss. It's a really gorgeous formula. It looks smooth. It feels good. It definitely leaves your lips feeling moisturized, again, even once it wears off. And I told you for a while, I was kind of on like a high-end lip gloss kick. And this year I've kind of changed, and like I really do love so many drugstore lip product formulas, not just glosses, but like lipsticks, lip balms. And after trying all of the lip products I mentioned in today's video, it just goes to show there are a lot of great options for under $10, this one included. I'll definitely share some final updates on these products once I've had a chance to really thoroughly test everything out. But thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you want to see my drugstore dupes video, I'll link it on the screen, as well as my other like latest drugstore roundup video where I shared all of the best new products available at the drugstore. So thanks for being here. I'll see you very soon with a new one. Bye.